Taco, when we're talking about quarterly figures, we're talking about tech giants that have the most influence on what is actually happening on the market. So this week we had
Meta,
Google, and Microsoft presenting their figures. We're going to highlight a couple of them. And also we are 1 week before a very important event. And which one is that?
Yeah, I think everyone knows the elections in the US.
Yes, the elections in the US. So what can we say about it? Who do you think will win?
I don't know.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, that's not worth anything. And I think if the Americans are not divided, I don't know. But
what is happening in the market? Because you do
that's
see
interesting.
something important.
We did some surveys. Maybe yesterday the presentation in our office we had, amongst others, this was a subject. And you know that the volatility is always increasing towards these kind of events. And actually, you see it also today. Markets are down, and volatility this week is like up 15%. I mean, there are a lot of investors, you know, by now that are working with options, etc. So you can really benefit from the uncertainty, knowing that after the elections, normally the volatility decreases. But to be honest, I don't know who's going to win what.
No, and I think you're not the only one. If I look here at an overview, for instance, Rasmussen reports Trump plus 2. CNBC, they think Trump plus 2. Then you're looking at here, for instance, Forbes, ABC News, Harris plus 4. So all those big players, like here Fox News, Trump plus 2, all have different outcomes. So which poll you should follow? It's basically you follow your preferred news zender, how you say that in English, sorry?
Channel.
Your favorite news channel to determine who will win, and then you will follow that because people are like that. If you look at all the polls, it's really close, 49, 48%. Yeah, it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. When it is so difficult, then you shouldn't even think about it because you won't know until we wake up the next morning who is going to be the next president of the United States. Let's start with Meta. They had their quarterly figures.
Yeah.
And it's an important one.
I think so, and it was very positive for them, and everything is actually related, of course, to the AI progress, their large language model, Meta AI, and also their glasses. I think a few weeks ago we mentioned it with the market reporters about EssilorLuxottica. There was like this deal. I think it came in actually that day, and those kind of developments, they are really benefiting already from those kind of movements. Still, the ad revenues are the main, income for this company. People might forget that. Mm-hmm. It's still very strong, but I think also other parts of the company are now becoming more important. The net profit was 15.7 billion, and that was 11.6 a year ago. So that's quite an increase, and it's also better than the expectations of the analysts. So that's important to know. What also was surprising is the costs. They increased with 14%, and that's normally, of course, something to check. I will get back later to that, because I want to highlight a few things, 3 things that were remarkable for me at least. The user engagement. It is 3.3 billion users a day on there.
Do you know how many people are in the world?
I mean, it's over 8 million, and of course, including all people without maybe the luxury and the children, 3.3, and it was actually 5% growth compared to the last quarter. So even, you are still growing with those kind of numbers. It's incredible, but it was expected was even more. So
they can expect what they want, but with these results.
Exactly. The capital expenditure, I mentioned it before. For the next, they're expecting actually in the next quarter 87% increase of the expenditure, and that's of course remarkable. It's all related to their AI infrastructure. So I mean, it's going very well, and they're also investing it. So that's quite remarkable, and that brings me to the third point. That's their position towards competitors. So they look like they are going to outpace their tech peers because of the developments and the investments they are doing. And I think that's very important because everyone, I think, agrees that AI and technology is hot and taking over the world. But still, you have to decide, of course, how to invest. Well, we spoke a lot about it, but I think that Meta is investing a lot apparently, and that could be a very important position because in the end you don't know who is going to win, and it seems that they are always going to win somehow.
Exactly.
The market price, the stock price, yesterday it closed at 592. Today a little bit lower, but 575. I think that's not that spectacular, especially if you realize that the beginning of the year $340, now like around 575. It's almost 70% increase this year. So of course that's no guarantee for the future, but it shows that they have a very nice track record this year. I understand also for new investors, if you look at the chart, that it might be a little bit scary to open a position. But on the other hand, based on the fundamentals and the plans they showed, it is still a very interesting and impressive company.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned Meta. I would like to highlight Microsoft. Microsoft presented as well as Meta their figures yesterday after the market closed. So Wednesday, the 30th of October, at just a little bit after 10 o'clock our time. And it was a mixed bag of earnings. So some things were really good. Of course, also, the total net income was up almost 11%. So up to 24.6 billion for that quarter, which is extremely good, of course. If you look at cloud revenue, that is also rising. So what are they making? So the total revenue, how much is coming from the cloud? It's up to 22% to 38.9 billion. So really a lot of money is coming from that cloud. Revenues in total from Azure, which is their cloud business, grew with 33%. And if you're looking at the total intelligent cloud business, that was up 20%. The thing, however, is, and that is not something what the market likes, that they're forecasting that the Azure growth will slow down a little bit to around 31%. So at the moment it is around 33. They think it will go down with 10%. So that is 10% from 33 to 30. That is not a positive sign. Also, you mentioned already the capital expenditure of Meta. Microsoft is having a huge amount of capital expenditure going into the AI expenditure. So 14.9 billion alone is being invested in AI-related investments, 50% more than last year. And the CEO had a funny phrase, said it's a case of speculation to accumulate. So we are accumulating based on what we think will be needed towards the future. Looking at amount of customers, 39,000 customers in the world, really big companies are using their cloud services, Azure Cloud. Companies such as, for instance, American Tower, CTT, L'Oreal, up over 80%. So they are growing quite substantially. Also, they have expanded their AI data centers over 60 countries. Recently opened new data centers in Mexico, in Sweden, also in Brazil, and in Italy. They presented new centers. The biggest disappointment was that they, of course, had to lower those expectations from 33 to 30% of growth, and also they weren't quite clear about what is the effect of all the investments in AI just yet. And what was funny is to see that the CEO, his name is Mr. Sadella, if I'm not wrong. He asked his buddy to come on stage and explain a little bit about Copilot. Copilot is like the new AI tool, and that was a little bit to distract the public from the fact that the figures were not as good as maybe was expected. And he was pitching actually the product, and that's, of course, is fair enough. I kind of like it actually that you try to, because that's what you want to do. You want to sell your product, and to do it on a moment like this when everybody's watching you is a good moment. Copilot is like a personal assistant. I think it works pretty well. It helps you to formulate emails, also makes transcripts of meetings, etc. It's a fantastic tool, and I think it's only at the beginning of what we will see from it. So looking at the total income on a yearly basis has gone up, of course, substantially. Total income for the group was 65 billion, 60% more than last year. And if you're looking at the earnings per share, for the quarter was $3.30, where they were expecting $3.11. So that was actually better. Downside here, of course, what I've already mentioned, was the fact that they were not clear about the future, and that has its effect. You saw the
markets don't like that. No?
Markets don't like that. Now nowadays, even though you present really good figures, but you say I'm not going to do my best next quarter, then you get punished. So that is what we're seeing at the moment. So I think there's a lot of risk in the market. Earnings are presented. They are complying with basically what is the actual price earnings of the market. The S&P 500 is trading around 25, 26 times the earnings. and the companies are delivering, but yeah, with a blink of an eye, it can change, and that's I think what we also saw with a company like Super Microcomputers. Super Microcomputers, that's the biggest delivery company of servers to NVIDIA. Yeah, what happened there? Ernst & Young, their accountants, they said we're pulling our hands off. We don't trust the board. We can't rely on the figures that are being presented. And yeah, when that happens to the biggest supplier of servers to NVIDIA, yeah, that gives a lot of intranquility in the market. So because everybody is holding on to this whole AI transition that we're going through. So be careful out there. It's not a run race. And of course, next week, election week, an important one, I think. Volatility might be a little bit higher. So take advantage of it if you trade options, but be very, very, very careful because it can also work against you.
Exactly.
Thank you for watching and give us your thumb.
Bye.